Good evening, family. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of If You Ain't Laughing, You Ain't Living with your boy comedian Doc, and we are gonna have some fun tonight. I have a very special friend of mine joining me today on this cast. So we're gonna talk about some serious but not so serious things. But I think, and in fact, I know for sure there's some relatable things. And we're just gonna try to tap into some spaces and get some ideas and give some ideas and have some fun as we go along. So relax, unbuckle your seatbelt. This is a loose event. Just relax wherever you are and let's enjoy this ride. Pat, welcome, man. Thank you for coming to the show and hanging out with me. I really appreciate you. Long time coming. We've been talking about this for a couple of years now, and here we are.
Here we are.
Yes, sir.
Glad you had me.
Man, I'm glad to have you. Just for the record, Pat. So I'm a briefly ask you just tell my audience a little bit about yourself, as much as you would like to.
I started at the sheriff's office in 1991, July 1991. I just recently retired. I did 34 years, 10 months.
Okay.
In corrections.
All in the same job.
All the same place.
Nothing else.
Nope, nothing else.
Ooh, that's a tough one. You the man because you still look good. You don't look like them concrete walls did too much damage to you.
Might not look 54, but I just feel it.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I tell you what, man. First and foremost, there isn't enough notoriety, in my opinion, about the people that work inside the jails, in corrections, detention, whatever they want to call it. I think I want to salute you for your service, man, to the community, and whatever you did on your job, man. You did it well, I'm sure, because you're still able to tell your story. So, man, thank you for your service.
Appreciate it.
We're going to talk about a couple of things, man. First and foremost, we're going to talk about your job. We're going to talk about our job because I, too, am a 30-year veteran in the same business in detention, corrections, been in it since 1995. So I can relate 100% about what's going on in that field. I can write a book about it. You know what? In fact, I might write a book about it because it's some stories need to be told, right? And not all bad, not all good. Just people need to know what they don't know, and we can kind of kill the stereotype. So you spent 35, 36 years in.
Almost 35, yeah.
Almost 35. And I want to just talk a little bit about how we get into these jobs, man, and they may not necessarily be the jobs that we chose, or sometimes the job actually chooses us. But being in a facility or in a career that long, I had a lot of things come to my mind earlier about how I know for me, I wasn't looking for working in the corrections. I wasn't looking to work in it. I was just a young 22-year-old man trying to figure out how to survive. And I got a phone call saying, hey, they're building this prison. They're hiring people. They're looking for people to come to work. And I was like, you know what? I need some stability. I need some insurance because I need to get my teeth clean. And I need to, and I jumped on the bandwagon. Never in a million years did I imagine I'd still be in that field working all these years. And that's why the topic kind of came to my spirit, man, because I was young. I was 22, you know, and I seen and was exposed to some of the most horrific things you can imagine in prison as a 22-year-old young man. But when you have the challenges of life that you facing at that time or whatever phase of life you in, it's almost like you kind of forced to stay, at least for me, because I didn't have no other outlet. I didn't have a higher education at the time. I didn't know a lot of stuff because of my background and how I came up and the things I did not know that kind of all worked against me. So what's your take on that, man, as far as when you got in, because you were 19? When you got
19.
In, so you essentially grew up in the business, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone's story is a little different when it comes to that. For me, it was I had every intention of going on the road. I wanted to be a police officer. I didn't even know what that meant, but I had no desire because I didn't know anything about corrections. So they told me, they suckered me, right? They said, well, you got to do a year in the jail. I said, all right, I'll do that, and ended up never leaving. It was I don't think it was for lack of still at some point wanting that. But as I grew in my career, you look at the differences,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what you once thought was something that you wanted, do I really want to be directing traffic in the middle of July in Florida in a vest and a full uniform in polyester at that time? Or do I want to be relatively comfortable in AC? Uh, and it wasn't just solely that. There's even today there's still aspects of law enforcement that appeal to me, but the day to day and seeing, I still see a lot of videos of the stuff the guys in road put up with, and I don't know if I have the patience at my age now to deal with that day to day. The drunks, the domestics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I never really took that step to get certified for that.
Okay.
And then, we were working a lot of overtime. So really it was just a distant thought, as we moved through that. And at some point you say to yourself, well, I mean, I know so much here. Do I really want to go out there and be the new guy all over again? I think that's one aspect of it. And then you start thinking about maybe promoting. And it's is it easier in corrections? Maybe it depends on the agency. I think some agencies have higher qualifications than some others. Even in our area, the counties north and south of us have a lower requirement than we do
Mm-hmm.
in our agency. So I think there's so many factors for individuals. If your agency's really good, you may not want to leave. You may be completely happy there. Um, but some people have that burning desire to move on and do other things. And then corrections isn't really necessarily something that they want to do. I mean, people don't realize, man, when you work in a concrete and steel building for any number of years, that has an effect on you, whether you realize it or not. Um, is there a certain amount of safety involved? Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, you're walking into a dorm full of murderers or worse. Um, and a police officer, although they have to deal with the aspect of firearms violence and stuff like that, they may go weeks or months without seeing a felon.
Mm-hmm.
You see them every day.
Right. Right. I can relate to that, and I appreciate that. Um, because people don't know, but they so curious, really what's going on. And you just gave us an example or a brief description of the environment in itself that kind of helped your decision making, because simple apples and oranges makes a difference in your judgment as far as which way you want to go in this career. You know what I mean? If something as simple as the weather, the climate could be a deciding factor, because a factor whether you're going to work in this particular environment or that one. I know me personally, I was asked several times to actually go on the road. I entertained the thought a little bit, but there was a couple of things that motivated me, and it was money. I was young. Uh, I still look young, and don't say nothing. Don't disagree with that, Pat. I still look young. All right, let's keep that real. Let's just talk about it for a minute. I'm still pretty. And in fact, I'm too pretty to work on the road, Pat, because sometimes you got to be out there in the sun. And, see, I think that's why your hair gone, because you was in the AC too long, Pat. I think the elements of the AC, all that condensation sometimes, I think that's why you would still have a fro, man, if you would have just went outside a little bit more. But nonetheless, I think that for me, because I think, first of all, it's kind of cool that you had the option, you know what I mean, to say, well, I'm gonna stay in this and just ride this thing out, or I can go out here. But for me, back in those days, and I know a lot of young men that was my age, the incentive was always money. I was motivated by money from the very get-go because I didn't have any and I didn't come from a place with money. So all you could think of at my age was, how can I survive? I need a paycheck. I didn't even really care about the benefits until I got them. I was able to go get a checkup and get physically checked out and, start keeping yourself together and learning things about you. So uh, in the business, I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity and still had the opportunity to be in it for those reasons. You stayed a long time, but my mind kind of ponders, like, did you ever were there ever any years that you thought about, and this might be a rhetorical question because I know, but just for the listeners, times that you second guess your decision making on being in the field, and or after time, years have passed before you know it, you in 10, 12, 15, 18 years. Was it a point where you was like, you know what, I want to do something else, but I'm too far in? Because that really happens a lot. We get into these careers by design, never really put too much thought into, but like me, trying to make a way to live, trying to help my mother out because we didn't come from money, and all these different things working in our minds to just get somewhere concrete to try to earn a living. And then before you know it, you still in that same element. 5 years has passed so fast because I'm kind of like, I ain't make a lot of major moves with the money because it wasn't a lot of money. It was just consistent. Before you know it, you in 10 years, Pat. Then 12 now, I'm like, man, they talking about how much money you got in retirement, and or if you just stay another couple of years. So I'm just saying, I know for the listeners, there are so many people in this world that have been a product of this decision making world they in, and they just stay and ride it out because they're too far into whatever it is that they either chose or kind of fell into. Can you relate to that?
Well, yeah. I mean, well, let's go back to the beginning. For me, I was working two jobs. I was
Okay.
working at a sub shop and I was working at a 7-Eleven just before I got the job at the sheriff's office. And it was amazing to me at 19 that I now had one job that paid more than both of those jobs.
Yeah.
Benefits, I think, when you're younger, really don't come into play in your head. It's
Mhm.
invisible unless you have some sort of need for that. Because generally, when we're younger, we're generally healthier. Or if you have a family, obviously that comes into play. So it's not something that was the forefront of my mind. We were working massive amounts of overtime. So as I moved through the first 3 or 4 or 5 years of my career, I mean, I was working 120 hours a month.
Oh wow.
So I effectively was doubling my yearly pay rate through overtime. But when you're young, at least for me, I didn't have the foresight to really put that money away. So you burn through it, and you can
Yeah.
always go get more because it was like an ATM, right? There's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
overtime.
Yeah.
Um, but when I first came in, the environment was not great. And I did actually go look at a couple of different agencies
Mhm.
to look at maybe a lateral move or a move that would put me in a situation that was maybe a little better. But the problem with that is that here you go again. You know, maybe you just hit your fifth year and you got that third week of vacation. You know,
Mhm.
and if the pay isn't outsized to make it worth the while, then what are you really gaining? You're starting all over again. And I don't think, at least for me, and like I said, it's different for everybody. I'd never looked at this as a career. And I think in some ways that was beneficial early on because at some point I woke up and I was like, man, I got 14, 15 years. And when did that happen? And then,
Mhm.
then I think, you start looking at, well, I only have to do 11 more years and I could retire. Not that I will, but I could. And I started late in life with marriage and kids, so that became another factor for me, and that honestly probably kept me going longer than I would have had it not been for that.
Yeah, understandably so. Yeah, understandably so. Yeah. Wow. But you said some key things that kind of support what I was thinking earlier. In fact, you said exactly what I was thinking because I actually feel like I'm a product of that same. I'm already in, and I've been in it so long. And I kind of tell you what, if I hadn't had God hadn't gifted me with talent, um, way before I became a comedian, way before I was always a barber, man. I had been cutting hair since I was in Chicago. I won't say whether illegal or legally because I don't know who listening, and I don't trust everybody, Pat. But I will say this: I'll say that I was hustling, trying to survive in Chicago before I came to the Florida, this beautiful Sunshine State, and just to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, when you into these jobs, man, and my mind just boggled because I know now, all these years later, and I heard the conversations year after year from people I've worked alongside throughout my journey, how I've run across so many people who've been in the business, and stayed only because they were vested, only because they had so much time in and they were halfway there or closer to the end. But these guys were miserable, right? So my mind kind of went a little bit deeper than that because by me working alongside these people, there were, and I'm let me see, from the conversations I've had over the last 30 years with people I worked alongside from prison and sheriff departments, there may have only been a handful that has something else going on outside of this particular profession. This profession is one that will challenge everything in your fiber as a human being, especially your mind, right? You can agree with that, right, Pat?
It consumes you.
It consumes you, man. So I can't help but to think about all of the brokenness that can come from if you don't find a way to do something outside of the job, right? For instance, if you decide to stay for 34, almost 35 years. I've been in it since 1995, 30 years and some change. You're right. I think I had like an 8-month hiatus when my wife and I lost our son, but I still end up back in it. The stability that comes with the job, I knew because I have the credentials, there was no way I can go without a job, right? Even if I wanted to venture out and do something else, there was a level of fear that came along with the fact that I knew I could get a job. So I was like, man, sometimes you want to go burst out in the scenes and do something totally different. But I know all I got to do is sign up right here and fill out an application. They're going to hire me because there's a need for it. I got what they need. I know how to do the job. So I get sucked right back into that cycle of, wow, I'm back here again. And my encouragement for the people that's listening is just, if you were into any profession, no matter what it is, but you're not happy, and I'm not saying I'm not happy because I've been happy because I bring my own energy, but there are highs and lows in everything. But
Mhm.
if you are in a position wherever you are, whatever field you are, and you in it by design, a lot of people piggyback off their parents' career choices. Doctors typically beget doctors. You know what I mean? Nurses, same thing. Somewhere along the family line, these people still exist, and they have motivated or coerced, for lack of better words, the children to be just what they were. They never had an opportunity to find out who they were supposed to be. They never had an opportunity to venture out a little bit and see what they could have been themselves. Don't even know that they have gifts. And that's the one thing I like to kind of just expound upon, man. Like, what do you do now? Like, because you was just saying you retired. Did you ever have an opportunity in your career, on your journey, man, to find out another piece of Patrick that you want to introduce to the world? Even with you being married and having kids later on in life, is there a piece of you that has nothing to do with law enforcement, nothing to do with the discipline that's in your brain, and because you grew up essentially in a system. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? On the other side. What now have you learned about yourself or that you feel like something you want to explore maybe, since you are completely done with that profession?
Well, I don't know if I'm completely done. I
Uh-oh.
still got to get a job.
Uh-oh. Oh, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
You pretty much guaranteed a job no matter where you go because you know it, right? And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just
Hmm.
saying, man, it's like, wow, even if I wanted to step away from it, I'm so programmed or institutionalized, if you will. I know I can go get my bread and butter. So why ponder? Why try to figure out something else now, this later in life, when I know I can go, somebody's gonna pick me up somewhere, no matter where I go. Once they see that I got a history of all this experience, hey, I can use him in this part of the department. I could bring him over here and train these young people. You know what I mean? So will you still be happy or you still making a paycheck?
Well, I think, man, it's tough to answer that because there's so many layers to it, right? Because for me now, um, it's an ends to a means.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not necessarily something that my identity revolves around, but it's something that, at least in what I'm looking to do next, is something that's familiar. It's going to make up some of what I lost retiring in my base pay,
Okay.
and it gives me insurance for me and my kids. Um, so it's not that. I mean, honestly, people have asked me, what do you like to do in terms of when I was going to retire? And I said, I have no idea. I've been doing the same thing for almost 35 years. When has there been time to do something that I enjoy or to discover that? You really don't have time. And then you start adding a marriage and kids into it. I think for men, a lot of men, it's not really about what you enjoy most of the time. It's about what you're good at and what you can make money at.
Well,
I don't think that we always. I mean, if I had a perfect job, it would be something that paid decently. That I actually felt like I was helping people, and that would be the reward through that.
mhm.
But they don't have a job for that necessarily. So I just try to be kind to people where I can, and help people where I can.
Well,
And like corrections is thankless, man. I mean, you you help someone and then it's a game, right? They're
okay.
just trying to get something off you, or you help one of your coworkers and it's all just a ruse a lot of times, and not always, but very rarely do you get the opportunity to directly help somebody. I tried to help people that were incarcerated as I could. I give them advice or try and talk them through a tough situation, but man, a lot of those times it feels like um it's just not heated because you'd see the same people all the time. You know what I mean? And you wish
Well,
because you could see a better side of them, right? Because they're not on the street, they're not doing the drugs or the alcohol, and you see the clean person, and they actually have a decent personality. But a lot of those guys, man, they either choose to or they don't know how to live otherwise.
right.
So you can only hope for them, pray for them, try to point them in the right direction. But it's like the old adage, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that's also true for us, right? We tend to revolve around safety because as providers, we want to ensure that our kids and our wife and our family is taken care of, and our wants and desires a lot of times are secondary to that.
Right. Oh, for sure. For sure. And that's the big challenge about it. The irony of it is, especially when, like you said, you got a wife and kids. I have a wife and kids, although, my kids are pretty much grown and out the house now, but back then they weren't. I was just getting started as well. So that same dynamic was, I got to provide for these people, that I'm responsible for. And I know where to go where I can get a guaranteed establishment. But I
Mhm.
will tell you this, and this is real key for any and everyone who's been in a position such as we have, where we've been in the field for so long, we know it like the back of our hands. In fact, it's effortless, like you said, man. Uh, it's a blessing, but also, in my opinion, it's a curse, and I'll tell you why. Uh, I pay attention. I've always paid attention to people, and one thing I've learned in this profession, I've worked alongside more disgruntled, unhappy, depressed people than I've actually uh, probably ran into in the streets, ran out in the outside world. In this profession and for my journey, and that's been over 30 years now, I've worked alongside people who have been divorced so many times, uh, but they stayed because now they have alimony added on to their dream. So, and I've seen them miserable and depressed, right? Still to this day, I'm still witnessing a lot of this. In my mind, uh, I I made sure in the beginning by paying attention to all these broken people that this is what I'm not going to do, right? I'm not going to do this right here. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay away from that because I paid attention. Not to mention uh, the amount of disrespect uh, that they have for each other. Uh, I won't expose. That's not what this our podcast is
Right.
about. But I will say this: I've seen a lot of infidelity with when we sort of have integrity. You know what I'm saying? And I'm talking about amongst the people that you work alongside. Hence the broken homes. It's like a domino effect, Pat, because I've seen it go to alcohol, to substance abuse, to termination, to jail, embarrassment. All these things, I feel as though uh, a lot of it come from what I was mentioning earlier about they didn't try nothing else. They got into these professions one way or another, And a lot of them were not happy, but they stayed because of what we talked about. They've already had a foundation laid. They had a guaranteed job. When they found out they didn't have to put a lot of effort into thinking, not no disrespect to the profession itself, but once you learn the premise of it and you get it, you got it. And
Yeah.
that would literally carry you off for the rest of your journey. That space will carry you for the rest of your career, and you'll get a retirement. You know what I'm saying? So the effortless part makes a lot of people comfortable because they don't want to learn or expand or, try to take their mind to the next level. But then the con to it is they suffer so bad. They suffer from being miserable. They got a wife and kids, but they're not happy because deep down inside, their consciousness is eating them apart for one reason or another. Either they've crossed the line in one way or another. They've hurt a human being when they really didn't want to. So many different dynamics to it, but they internalize this and then they take it home. And so that's why they say the divorce rate is super high, which it is, along with other things. Now, in the latter days, we're dealing with suicide at a higher rate now in this profession. We're dealing with that mental health breakdown, mental psychosis. All these things are kicking in now. And I just can't help but to think like, if you are in a position, meaning people, where you can venture out a little bit, try something else, even while you have your solid job, your main job, it works. And my kids, I have adult children and a young adult child, and I'm telling them now because they are young, hey, try some things while you got something going on. You got a steady job, but my son been at the same job for 6 years, but his certification or degree is in IT. But he's following the same path that I'm trying to get him not to. So I'm always telling him, hey man, go try this. Go research this and see how you feel about this. Try real estate. Go do some insurance adjustment. Put your hand in some other things because then you might find out a different balance that might ultimately take you away from what was not meant for you to stay as long as you did. Or you'll find out that it was meant for you to stay, but at least you gave your brain a break and you went out and tried something different. And that's what worked for me. I have so many different hats that I didn't focus on the job as my only way to survive. And this was the only thing I tried real estate. And I sold real estate. I went to school, all these things, not for other people, but it helped keep my sanity. So I never had to deal with the alcohol breakdown and the mental crises and things of that nature. I've mourned more for people that I worked alongside and prayed for them than I did my own stuff. You
I
know,
hear you.
so
Yeah.
just trying to encourage the people to I want to kind of break the monotony of that. I want to encourage people today, if you're listening, and you in that position that where you were piggybacked off your parents' profession, or someone have pretty much told you what you need to do, or by design you enter up in a profession that's just what you end up in for the moment. Don't get too comfortable. Spread your wings, so to speak. Try new things. If that won't do nothing else, it'll at least bring you some other type of peace, possibly that'll help you be able to manage your direction and which way you want to go for your career. And it may be a game changer for you and your family. What you say about
Yeah.
that?
No, I agree. I think a lot of that though, for a lot of people is also laid. That groundwork is laid by their parents, right?
Right, right.
If you
But
have
what if they don't
parents
have
that are,
parents? What if they don't have parents? I came from a single family household. My mother was single, 5 kids, and all she was trying to do was survive. So that's
Mhm.
why I stay in survive mode. So I understand that. What
Well, some
about
of
other
that
people?
comes from that can come from within also. But I think as parents, we need to expose our children to different things, and not
Yes,
let them be comfortable in what they're doing.
yes,
Like if you have a kid who only likes a certain sport, say, well, I want you to try something. Pick something else to try, because you never
absolutely.
know. You may love it. You may hate
Yep.
it. Do one season and move on if you don't like it.
Yes, sir.
Um, we get up to where we're going in Tennessee. I'm gonna expose the kids to a lot of different things that they're not used to. Some of they've been asking about, like, one of my daughters wants to learn to ride horses. We'll look into
Mm.
that. Want to do some whitewater rafting and just get them out into different stuff that they've never done
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
Um,
man, yeah.
maybe working on because they have a lot of FFA stuff up there.
Hmm.
Introduce them to cows, goats, and learning how to deal with that kind of stuff. Um, just a different like an outdoor lifestyle because I feel like where we're at right now, it's just they're comfortable in what they're doing, and
Hmm.
summer gets hot and they don't want to go outside sometimes, so it's a little better up there as far as heat goes.
I got you.
But I think you got to expose your kids to a lot of different things because how else are they gonna know what they like?
Right.
They're gonna be like me when they're 19, just looking for survival.
Yeah, yeah, right. I get it. I get it. But I tell you what, man, I'm coming to Tennessee. But you said some things that I'm gonna try some things with you, Pat.
All
But I ain't
right.
gonna the whitewater rafting, what you call it,
Yeah.
whitewater rafting? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't get too excited, buddy, because I won't be trying that by myself. Uh, to get me on the rapids, we gonna have to tie some type of long string to me,
They, they have
some
these
rope.
vests that don't let you drown.
No, you don't understand. See, that's the other people's stuff. I need something tied to me for. I need about 1,000 feet worth of rope. I need some type of safety net because you ain't finna
But
get me all
they
in.
have different levels of rapids. I mean, it's not like you go on the 10 the first day. You go on
Oh, okay,
4.
okay. The horseback riding, I could do that.
Yeah.
I could do that kind of stuff,
Do some
man.
zip lining.
Yes. We ain't doing that. These are sports that Pat, I'm just gonna say this. I'm gonna look my melanin, my skin a little dark. Um, so some of these things you talking about doing, it's just my skin don't line up with it with some of these activities. I'm gonna leave it right there to keep it clean. But we could do, basketball.
Yeah, Liam thinks he's LeBron right now, so I'll
Okay,
put you
good,
on him.
good, man. But you said a mouthful, man, about exposing them to different things. That's key. Uh, because again, like I mentioned earlier, I did see, and I still see a lot of. In fact, here's another curse: the people that we were talking about that have been in these professions, whatever they are, and they are grandfathered in. They stay, they leave, they are unhappy they journey, they leave unhappy, and they exit out and they don't know what to do with themselves. But here's the thing that gets me sometimes: they introduce their children to that same profession,
Mm.
right? They get them in, nepotism. They get them in, and they watch them go through the same thing and help them navigate through their misery, as opposed to telling her, man, you know, you do that on your own because I'm not going to be a part of that decision making for you. So here's some other things that you can do. But if you choose that, that's on you because I know you. I've been doing this your whole life. You seen me come home with a knot upside my head every now and then. You seen blood all over my shirt because it was brutal like that back in the day.
Hmm.
Uh, and these things that some parents will just bring their children right on in, and I can't help but wonder, like, if you were miserable, why would you bring your children into misery? You know what I mean? Why would you still? But you know why though, Pat? Because the same reasons they know it's job stability. Hey, you can get your insurance. They got a great retirement plan. Hey, all you got it ain't that hard work. You know what I'm saying? And here we go again. It's a revolving. It's a vicious cycle. So
Well, I think a lot of those people also don't know that they're miserable.
mm,
You know,
that's good.
um, they they're surviving, they're existing, they're living. Are they happy? Well, if someone has never really been happy, then what do
Hmm.
they have to compare that to?
Hmm.
You know, I mean, I think with at least some of the people that we've seen, that it wouldn't matter the job that they're in.
Hmm.
Because I feel like some people, they win the lottery, they would still complain about the taxes they have to pay. Um,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
I think for a long career, and like I said before, it's always an individual thing. But for me, I really had to learn at an early point that if you can't control it, then
Hmm.
there's no point in getting emotional about it. You
Right.
may disagree, you may say, what your disagreements are, but you got to
Hmm.
leave it at that because at the end of the day, you're not the boss, and it's going to be their decision.
Right.
And some people just get so tied up emotionally with things that they feel are right or wrong. And really, it's not about that because sometimes, and you know as well as I do in corrections, sometimes it's the best, worst decision you can make because there are no good decisions.
Hmm.
Right? The least damaging one is still not great, but it's what you have to go with.
Right.
Um, and there's points in my career where, as a supervisor, I've made decisions and they say, why did you do that? Give them my reasons. Didn't really have a choice, and they still don't like it. Well, you can not like it, but I mean, I was the one that was in that position, and I made a decision. Would
Right.
you rather have someone who doesn't make a decision and just calls you at 3 in the morning? You know,
Yeah.
um, and a lot of times those types of people, I just feel like it's perpetual, no matter what's going on, and it wouldn't matter if it was corrections, if it was they were a CEO of a
Yeah. Yeah.
multi-million-dollar multinational corporation. It really
Yeah.
wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah.
What makes people happy or not happy is an individual thing, and um, I think for some, if that's your only identity, what you're doing, um, then you probably will be a sad person.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to get overly religious, but that's something that has brought me through that to the point that I am today. My kids, my family, and God. Without any of that, I probably would have been a short career.
Same. Same. 100%. Because you have to find something outside of yourself to help you
Right?
sustain a healthy life.
Exactly.
And for me, it is God, and it will always be God for me, man. Because that's what I found out what works, especially because I respected it. And I still respect it. And I'm glad you said that, man, because uh, I cannot go without telling people that's listening that's in the same position of the people that we're talking about. Meaning, if that's you and you trapped, you feel like you trapped. One thing you can rest assured of, if you get your relationship with a higher power, which for me is Jesus. You can pick who you choose, but if it works for you to keep you a level head, keep you loving everybody, keep you at peace with everybody, then go with that, go with that. But I'm just saying for me, that's what it is, and it works.
Mhm.
My marriage is almost 28 years solid, no breaks, no issues. My kids are growing up pretty good. So all those I attribute for the principles that come from God's word, helping lining me up. A young man that didn't grow up with a father, grew up poor, had nothing, man. I mean, let me rephrase that. I give I give nothing but accolades to my mother everywhere I go. You know this. My mother was a struggling young single parent, but she put in work.
Mhm.
She stayed and she took care of these five young mouths to feed, and we never went without. We didn't have no extras, but we didn't go without. And so when I say it was bad, but it wasn't worse as some people have it. You know what I'm saying? I thank God for that, and I thank God for my mama, because nowadays they give up so easy. Uh, the generation thing, Pat, Generation Z, Generation X. Which one we in? We in Generation Z, right? Well, that's the new
The,
age.
what are we?
Yeah, we Generation X. What are we? X,
X.
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 Yeah, so X. I learned about that when I was in school. So Generation X, that's kind of like where we are as well. We all got the same personality. I didn't believe this at first, man, until I did my research
Hmm.
myself and I paid attention to how we all operate in our age group and our time, our generation. And it's amazing, man, the differences that really is. Like
Hmm.
like we were just talking about, we'll stay on the job forever because of responsibility that we have in our
Hmm.
heart to take care of business. Man, these young generations, they'll quit for the craziest things, man. They'll walk into an office, they got the job. But they walk in, don't like the way it smells. They be like, you know what, man, I'm out of here. It don't smell good. You know what I'm saying? I don't like
With
the paint.
no plan behind that.
Nothing. They just walk on, you know what, man, I changed my mind. They don't, I changed my mind. I don't want to work here. And they leave with no nothing. But
Hmm.
and they surviving. However they survive, they are, but they got safety nets. They got a lot of cushion. They
Hmm.
got ways to do things now that we didn't have and we weren't exposed to it either because of the parenting style. We had some real discipline in our generation. Now it's really loose. And I'm not, throwing darts at the young generation. I'm just being brutally honest. This is what it is. And I hope that I can encourage somebody in this new generation to make sure if you parenting and you trying to figure it out, please have some stability and some discipline when you raise your children, your family, so they don't be so off kilt, if you will, when it come time for them to make decisions, you can trust that they're gonna make some good ones. Because charity starts at home, as they say. So man, I appreciate that. And I definitely appreciate your journey, man, and your testament to how to hold things down. Now, I got you left with integrity. You retired with integrity, right? I
I
mean,
hope so.
I ain't hear nothing bad about I ain't say nothing bad about you yet. You know what I mean? But you left with integrity, Pat. I can't say I'm gonna leave a job like that. Ain't nobody did nothing wrong with me. I love, but I feel like I'm gonna do something stupid. I just feel like doing something stupid, just so I can say, when I'm rocking in my rocking chair, me and my wife look at, when I left that job, you remember I put all that WD-40 on the, I put all that oil out there, and I'm gonna do something crazy. I'm gonna set something on fire. I'm gonna break a window. I'm gonna throw some firecrackers in. I'm gonna do something crazy. So when I leave, I got a story to tell. 'Cause you left real nice, man. Why you leave so nice? Why you didn't moon nobody? Do they still moon people nowadays?
No,
They don't moon. Do anybody? I'm gonna moon somebody. I'm gonna bring it back.
no, you're
I'm
not.
gonna moon. A lot of hair. It's a lot of hair. It's a lot of hair back there,
You
Pat.
are not.
Now,
You are not.
Pat. It's a lot of hair waiting to be seen. I'm gonna moon somebody.
You know,
I ain't no wear no drawers to work one day, Pat. And I'm
I
gonna
don't
moon.
believe that for a minute because your wife wouldn't be having
I'm gonna
it.
have a Bible in one hand. I'm gonna moon somebody with the other hand, bro. Because we're gonna balance this thing out. Yeah. But no,
Yeah, I
man,
think
you left with
we all
integrity.
we all think about things like that. I think, but at the end of the day, man, it's you think about it up until the moment you're leaving, and then for me personally, I don't even care anymore. I was so ready to leave. It was a
Mhm.
battle to go in the drop and do those 5 years, but only because you're trapped in that, right? You're in the
Right,
drop,
right.
and then you got this goal. Honestly, if I didn't have that, I could do that job for 100 years if I was allowed to.
Okay.
Um, would I necessarily enjoy it? No. I mean,
Mhm.
not a lot of enjoyment in corrections, man. It just ain't.
Right, right.
Um, it's few and far between, for those
Mhm.
feel good moments. Very, very,
Mhm.
very limited.
Right.
I'm just not
But
in that position or opportunity to help people. But for the people above us that you know made maybe bad decisions or decisions we didn't like, man. When I was at that point of leaving, for me, a lot of that stuff just went by the wayside because honestly, I'm on the next leg. Um,
mhm.
I'm going to I'm going to move. My family and I going to Tennessee, moving on in a different career. And at the end of the day, that's not going to change anything.
Mhm.
Um, so I think really what you got to do is just even if they haven't asked for it, you
Mhm.
forgive everybody that you can, and you walk out with your head high,
Right.
and that's it.
Hey, well, you did that, man. You did that, and I appreciate working alongside you for all those years that we worked together. Definitely had some of my best conversations with you, man. Still to this day, we still have them. I consider you a friend, my brother. And I tell you what, I love good, genuine people. And what I would like to leave for the listeners before we close out this portion of If You Ain't Laugh, You Ain't Living, what I leave to the listeners is this. Make sure that while you're on your journey and while you're trying to figure out your future and you trying to make things work and you want to find your way, make sure that you have balance. And what I mean by that is do not bury yourself in one thing and always find a way to smile. Always find a way to have a good laugh. I don't care what you got to do it. Make sure that you enjoy yourself while you journeying your way through your life because nothing worse than getting in a career, even doing it well, but you don't know how to laugh. You don't know how to enjoy yourself. And I've seen a lot of that, man. I've worked
And
along a lot of that. Bring your own energy, people. As you know, I bring mine. I refuse to let people steal my joy. I refuse to let people have me being in that miserable space because people will do that just because they see you happy. They want to see you miserable like they are because at home it's bad. The dog don't even want to let them rub them no more. You know what I mean? They just miserable. So don't be that person, people. Make sure you find out, you get you some balance going on your journey. You have you some fun. Educate yourself as much as you can because this world is different. And love people and find you something higher than yourself and your own pride and vainglory, man, and hold on to it. If it's positive, hold on to it and don't let go. And love people and have a good time. Pat, man, love you. I appreciate you, man. Anything you want to say and anything you want to encourage these listeners to before we close out, brother?
I mean, listen, like I said, there's so many layers, and everyone's different in what motivates them or makes them successful. But I think for me, I wonder about things that maybe I could have done or should have done. But at the end of the day, um, I'm at this point in my life because of the decisions I made, good and bad. Um, and without failing at various points, without making bad decisions, which is the ones we always think about,
Hmm.
um, I wouldn't be who I am and where I am today. I had
Right.
to make those mistakes and I had to move forward with, I mean, there's no manual, right?
Yeah.
So, um, I think you just got to believe in yourself. You got to trust in God,
Yeah.
and it's not always going to be what we want. But I think if you really have something in your heart and your desire to try something new, can't be afraid of that either. But you have to do it smart, right?
Yeah.
Um, you can't abandon something that gives you the ability to pay your mortgage and your bills um, without some sort of plan. But don't
Amen.
be afraid to try it.
Amen. That's all I'm saying. And you said it, you said it right. You hit the nail on the head. You can't abandon your responsibilities. So
Mm,
yeah, there has to be a level of strength in you to maintain because you know what you got on your plate.
mhm.
You know what you have to take care of. So I'm not. Then again, the generation difference is they have this thing I've seen like 6 8 months ago called I think quiet quitters or something like. These
Yeah,
kids were getting together and just walking in and say, you know what, I quit. And some of them have some really prominent jobs, man. But it was a fad, it was a trend, and they were doing it. And I was like, man, after you had that moment and you walk out and the cameras go off and the phone shut down, then you realize what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm saying?
no
Don't be
plan.
that person. Don't be that person. Use some common sense, some wisdom. And don't be that person to do that crazy stuff because you may not be able to get your job back. You know,
Right.
because everybody's replaceable, in my opinion. There's some way somehow somebody gonna replace you, or they'll delete the position before they get you
Hmm.
back a job. Because if you quit like that, they don't want you anyhow. So again, people, make sure that you balance out your life. Don't deny yourself an opportunity to advance on any level, but enjoy the journey because it's certainly a time now when we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring to us. So you must laugh, you must have a good time, and fellowship with people, man. Get along with some people. Change your attitude and bring some peace to the house. Bring some joy to the place. And if they don't jump on the bandwagon, you still hold your energy and spread that type of light everywhere you go. And I hope I'm living in that space because if I ain't laughing, Pat, I ain't living. Man,
Hmm.
thank you for coming out to the show. Thank you, listeners, for spending time with us this evening and stay tuned for the next one. Until then, we love you and have a fantastic day.
You as well.